You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The Iron Lady sings that makes official. Welcome to the big show. For 16 years and 2,400 episodes, we've been bringing you the most amazing minds and authors around the world who share with you the stories, the journeys of life, their lessons, their novels, and all that sort of good stuff that they write. And they help figure out ways to tell stories to improve the quality of your life. And if you're not improving your life, go back and listen to all 2,400 episodes. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today we have an amazing young lady on the show to feature her books. She's a multi-book author. Paula Ruth Jones joins us in the show. Her latest book came out March 18th, 2025, entitled Mark the Bully Shark. Welcome to the show, Paula. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming. Give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
PaulaRuthJones.com.
There you go.
It takes you right into Amazon.
There you go. And so how many books have you written? I see quite a few here.
Actually, I've written 2 that have been actually published.
Okay.
And I have 2 more in the wings that I've tried.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You wanted to be a teacher. You share not only what was in books, but also your own storehouse of knowledge, learning lessons in life that would support the choices of young people as they approach adulthood. You moved to New York City, where you became interested in ancient art and numerous opportunities to travel the areas of the ancient world. And you moved to Miami Beach in 1984 and sold luxury real estate. What made you decide to write this book or get into the authorship business?
I was going with a friend who was a certified shipwreck diver. Mm-hmm. And I was always afraid of the water as a child. And I always wanted to do scuba diving. And I was always afraid to try it. But I wanted to share that with him. So I went and I got my certification for scuba diving. And then I went to Key West and got my certification for ship. Then we went to the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. Mm-hmm. And I just became mesmerized by all the different types of sharks. And I thought about writing a children's book about bullying, which is a worldwide issue with our youth today.
Oh, yeah.
And, but I was doing luxury real estate in Miami. I didn't have the time. I like to focus on what I need to. But I put it on my bucket list. So when I relocated to New York, I also was very, very busy and didn't have time to develop that. And then I wound up in Las Vegas doing luxury real estate. The market crashed, and it gave me the opportunity to write my children's books.
And how did you know you were going to be a good writer at this? What was the gumption? Had you been kind of maybe toying with writing most of your life, or storytelling maybe?
Well, when I was a child, I used to stutter, and the kids would make fun of me. And what I did, I would bury my nose in a book to avoid them bullying me. And I just grew to have a love of reading. And that's basically when I got to this point, I felt that I would like to write a book that I think would help our youth understand when they get angry that they should treat others the way they would like to be treated.
There you go. So would you say that some of that experience you had as a child helped you shape this narrative and also, want to help resolve those issues for other people?
Absolutely.
That's a great story.
When you're bullied, it makes you feel bad, makes you feel less of a a child or a human being. Even human beings do bullying. And I think sometimes the children, they may live in an environment where their parents may have an issue with each other, and they deal with it differently, either physically or verbally. And that rubs off on the kids. I think it really starts in the home. Mm-hmm. And when they go to school or they experience their own anger, they think the way to handle it is what they saw their parents do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, it's tough in school. I mean, you're not really designed for, sometimes you're dealing with sometimes parents that are struggling at home, dealing with each other and, trying to provide a parenting environment for you. And so that's a struggle. And then you got the world coming at you. And then, I remember as a young boy going through elementary school and dealing with bullies. And, you're not really equipped psychologically for a lot of this stuff. I remember I was in 4th grade and we had this huge playground in California. It was an open air school, as California's able to pull off. So we'd always be out, playing on the thing. And there was a bully with 2 little kids, and they would take everyone's lunch money and they would push everyone around and, bully them for lunch money. And I remember coming home after a lot of this and finally complaining to I think it was my mother and my father. And they said, why don't you just punch him in the face or beat him back up or just fight him or something to that degree. I don't remember what the comment was. I'm getting faded on it. But one day they came up and I remember thinking, just what am I going to do? I'm just a kid. They're bullies. They're bigger than me, technically. Usually, I mean, they're the kids who've got more growth hormone going on at that age than not, or maybe they were just held back. And they said to me, give me your lunch money. They surrounded me, and something just broke in me. Like I just cracked. I think they pushed me or hit me or something, and I popped and I attacked the main guy and bloodied his nose. I had him pinned on the ground, and I just lost it. And so that was the end of the bullying at that point with those people. They needed to meet a bully on the street. And it kind of taught me a very important lesson in life that sometimes when you deal with bullies, you've got to be a bully of bullies and you've got to stand up to them, and they'll cower away because cowardice is usually the thing that's driving those folks. Or insecurity, maybe.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. And I even found that in high school we had bullies. And I remember we ended up having a big fight with them. We all ended up in the whatchamacallit's room. But for months, they had been shoving us in the lockers, and not shoving us in the locker, but into the outside of a locker, being mean. And, we were later told by the vice president, these 2 twins that had problems with a lot of people in school, bullying them, they were being beaten and had an alcoholic father and having all sorts of issues, of course, from the tumultuous life that brings that out. So it's kind of interesting how these things in life end up causing us to hurt. And so you've put this down in a book using a shark and as a protagonist, I guess. Would you call the protagonist if he's the bad guy? I don't know. I get lost in all those scientific terms. What age group do you have this appealing to?
I would say from the womb to 7 years old. And I say from the womb because it's a known medical fact that when a baby is developing inside the womb, they sense sounds, noise, very loud noises, whatever, and music. And that's been proven that usually if a lot of the musicians that they were influenced by hearing noises while they were still developing of music.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think we. I'm not a scientist, folks, so please don't start around whatever I say. But you can if you want, I suppose, just as long as you get some money for it. I need some tithing, a tax-free write-off. Anyway, but they say that we can kind of feel our mother's stress or feel maybe her emotions a little bit, or we can maybe sense some of that coming and going. My mom used to talk to me when I was in the womb with her. She used to write letters to me and read them. I think she did music. I don't remember, but it can make a difference in the world. And it's kind of interesting how you do you really love Shark Week? Is that a thing for you because you're into sharks?
I've watched it a few times.
I get PR messages from, I think it was the History Channel or TNT or something that puts that on every year, and they're like, "Hey, it's Shark Week." It's quite well. Now you have another book that you've written as well, I believe, and it's called Dalton's Dream. Do you want to talk about that maybe a little bit?
Of course. For 3 years, I spent searching my family history with Ancestry. And I had all the family members send me documents from the Civil War, old Bibles where they would enter births and deaths and marriages, etc. And I got a wealth of materials. And I started to write the book. Took me, like I said, 3 years. And I sent each family member a copy. And so Dalton, it's Christmas time. He's in his soccer outfit, waiting for his soccer ride. He read about his family history on the coffee table, falls asleep, wakes up in his dream, met all his ancestors that he had just read about. He told them we had gone to the moon. We had the first Black president, which slavery was being practiced. It's just history that would be beneficial for children to read it. And how it all ends is that they went out to the barn to put blankets on the horses, and Dalton dropped his phone. When he went to pick it up, the horse kicked him in the head and woke him up from his dream. And when he woke up, he had a better appreciation for the iPhone he just got for Christmas and all his toys, better appreciation for his family, and better appreciation for living in the 21st century. That's really the moral of the story, is family appreciation.
There you go. Family appreciation is important, because you got to be, I mean, we all don't get to choose our family, but, understanding their mechanisms, how they work, all that sort of good stuff, that can be important. And so this harkens back to the 1700s. You've targeted this to the same sort of age group again. Would that be a good guess?
No, the age group, I would say, first of all, the kids are reading much earlier today than way back. And I would say anywhere from 6 to 15. 15, 16 in that age range.
So kind of more of an older crowd, maybe, than your prior book.
Correct.
There you go. So they've got a book for in the womb to technically 6, and then 6 and up. You're covering the whole gambit there. What do you like about writing for young people and children? What do you there's a narrative I'm sure you have to shape, and of course it has to be kind of targeted to them. Maybe it shouldn't be too complex of scientific words that I can't even read at my age because I'm old. I flunked 2nd grade. I think that's a callback joke on the show. What do you find that motivates you or you find enriching about writing in that format?
First of all, when you build up a storehouse of knowledge as you go through life and mature on different age ranges, that I think we should have an obligation to hand that storehouse of knowledge down to our youth. And as times go, a lot of them are the ones that I've met. They are confused about a lot of things because it's beyond their comprehension because of their age. And I had the opportunity to travel all over the world and to observe other children in different countries. And basically, children are all the same. And I just think that, we need to mold their brain into making better decisions, as they grow up. And like I said, not all children have the benefit of living in a healthy environment. And so I wanted to write a book that hopefully it would get to them, that they could read it, and it would give them, more knowledge how to make better choices in life.
There you go. Your book, Dalton's Dream, deals with the sea and the ocean and kind of that romanticized pirates. And I don't know if you have pirates in the book. Are there any pirates in the book, by chance?
No. Pirates.
I'm just looking at the ship on the cover, thinking about, that whole romanticism of that era and the storytelling as well that can drive people to it. And, the journey of our far off places, I suppose. And there was a lot of that I aspired to when I was young. I used to read a lot of military books, World War II books, stories of generals, and all that stuff that influenced me. So, yeah, it definitely has an interest to people. And I think The minds at that age still have so much imagination, creativity to them. They haven't been, beat up and jaded like the rest of us as we reach adulthood. And what bills? We have to work. They just have that wonderful, joyous imagination, and stories like this appeal to them, I think.
I think also with the technology, I mean, I see young kids like 4 and 5 years old on their iPad, and it's not a toy. I mean, and using an iPhone, it's unbelievable. And they're exposed to a lot of that. They actually say that they think that our future generation is going to have a smaller brain because they depend too much on the technology and not enough reading or,
And you tend to use your imagination, I think, more. I suppose you could read a book on the iPhone if you do the Kindle or something. But most kids I know are watching YouTube. They're watching TikTok and stuff, and of course a lot of that stuff can rot your brain. It's rotting my brain at this point. And so most of those things can help develop their brains. It can help them creatively think, and also. What was the point I was getting to? We just had a doctor on last week who was talking about the blue light problem, and they're seeing younger and younger people coming in with myopathy and different glaucoma earlier. They're seeing you come in way earlier with eye problems, and it's because of the blue light in these computers. And a lot of kids are being handed a iPad when they're like, babies, just play with and toy with and, see the images on the screen and stuff. And turns out it's having a massive impact on their eyes. But reading a book doesn't have blue light, kids. Welcome to plug here for anti-blue light technology. Reading a book doesn't have those issues. And there's something very tactile and wonderful about reading a book, I think. Maybe I'm biased because I'm an author, but there's something about the tactile experience. Like I spend a lot of time, I'll go out and read maybe a few pages of Marcus Aurelius Meditations or something from Stoicism. And I'll just kind of ponder them. And you kind of don't really get that with a YouTube video. It's just all force fed to you, and you don't have time to just kind of consume it. I think that's why a lot of kids watch videos over and over again. What's the future that you see for yourself doing? Do you have more books that you're cooking, or maybe you want to take some of these books, like maybe the shark book, and turn them into a character that moves through several different iterations of books and stories?
Mark the Bully Shark, there is a sequel that's coming out very soon. Mm-hmm. And as far as my other books, I've drafted 2 other ones, but I want to see these through first. And one is, I don't want to go into detail because somebody might steal the idea.
Yeah, don't steal her idea.
But it's then again a children's book to make them feel special. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is teaching young children how to get what they want. And how they do that, they have to set a goal. And, whatever they want, that to have their mother go to the store, take a picture of it, put it on top of a ladder. And then the rungs of the ladder are the steps that you have to make in order to get that toy. So that probably will be my next one.
There you go. That should be interesting. And I mean, do you feel like you really want to do this writer thing? Do you feel like you got maybe 10, 20, 30 books in you, maybe?
I don't know about that.
I mean, we have some authors on the show.
I am.
We have those. What are the one guys who are really prolific? The Tom Clancy authors. We've had all the Tom Clancy authors on the show multiple times, and then they have their own series that they write. And man, they are pumping those books out. I don't know, every 3 months, 6 months that they write them. And of course, it takes a while to get edited and to market. But in fact, I had one recently on the show, and usually anytime I have one on the show, I can look on Amazon the next one that gets released like 6 months. I'm like, you have 2 upcoming books, not 1 next week. And they're like, oh yeah. But yeah, some of these authors, they're prolific and they can write and storytell like nothing else. And some of us, especially me, I'm about 30 years, I'll make another book. At the pace I'm going right now. I'm glad you enjoy it. What advice would you give to people who want to become writers like yourself? You kind of did a whole different life of careers and then settled into book writing. What advice would you give to aspiring writers or maybe young people who read your books and say, hey, I would like to write like her someday?
I have one major thought about that so many people have asked me, how did you do that? I tried it and it didn't work. There's so many people who write children's books or just in general write books. How are they ever going to find you? And I said, you can't think that way. What you have to do is make a plan. And if it's, some people may like the subject matter and some people may not. Mm-hmm. But you can't be afraid to try, because I've had people say to me, Paula, you think you're going to be a children's author, how many children's books are out there? And I told them I would rather try something and fail than not try something and be successful. So I believe in what I'm doing, and I believe my books will be very successful.
There you go. I think so too. And you're writing for an audience that needs as much help as I can get. We need more kids to read books. We need more critical thinking. We need to stir their imaginations more. That's kind of one of the other problems with, I don't know, I'm not a kid. I can't really say that. I've been at my friend's house and his kids are watching that Disney Cars movie like 50,000 times over and over again. Mm. And I understand that the reasons why they do that for repetitive is to understand things. And I suppose maybe it spills over into their imaginations. But for me, reading as a book and not having, maybe I'm just jaded because I grew up in that era, and I'm one of those get off my lawn kids guys now. I'm Clint Eastwood. But, there's something just that when you read a book, you have to draw the pictures in your head. It's an activity, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. And that engenders your imagination and building characters and, thinking about, scenarios and stuff and drawing the scenery and the interaction and interplay between the characters. And I don't know, maybe someone should do a study on, or if you turn out smarter if you watch YouTube videos, or if you turn out smarter if you watch books. But judging by the latest generation, I'm pretty sure I'm going with the books. This is me. So there you go. And so books are just so important, and you're writing them, telling your stories. Now some of the authors that come on my show, their characters come to them and talk to them and sit down with them, almost annoy them into writing for them. I don't have that I don't have that sort of thing. Do you find that your characters come to you or develop? How do you develop your characters, I guess?
I think from past experiences and just to animate them, and so that children who are reading them, their parents experienced bullying, I'm sure, when they were young.
Yeah.
And maybe they can, identify that and have some family conversation.
Yeah. Maybe I need to read it, because I deal with bullies all the time. We've had a YouTube channel for 18 years.
I'll send you a signed copy.
Send to some of the bullies. I've been on YouTube for 18 years with our things. And boy, the things that they say to you, wow. They'll be like, I can tell you're fat because you have fat fingers. And I'm like, you spent a lot of time on this, didn't you? And then you're just kind of, thank you, Mr. Discovery, for identifying something I've known all my life. Boy, aren't you the wizard of reality there, buddy? I probably have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and I'm a human being. Wow. Aren't you Mr. Detective Central? It's just insane what people will say to you sometimes, that it's just incredibly mean. And of course, they're in some basement in their mom's house, and they're like, Mom, I need a sandwich. They haven't had a job in 20 years or something. I don't know. I tease. As we go out, anything more you want to discuss or share with people, et cetera, et cetera?
Just go on my website, paularuthjones.com. And I've done a lot of local marketing as well. And I've gotten tremendous amount of positive reaction. And so I'm looking forward to young children buying it and learning something.
There you go. So thank you very much for coming on the show. Tell people your .coms, where they can find you on the interwebs.
paularuthjones.com, Instagram and Facebook, paularuthjones.com.
There you go. Thank you very much, Paula, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks, Monis, for tuning in. Order up her books wherever fine books are sold. There's Mark the Bully Shark out on paperback March 18th, 2025. And check out Dalton's Dream, 3rd edition. I just noticed the 3rd edition part. Has this been out before, or?
Yes, it has.
Ah,
Mhm.
there you go. So did you add more details and context to it?
Revised it.
Oh, there you go.
Sometimes I have an afterthought and that I think is very important, and then I'll just have it revamped. That's all.
I should do that to my book, because sometimes I go read my book and I'm like, hey, there's no periods in this thing and commas. No, I'm just kidding. They're in all the wrong places. And then I'll read again. I'm like, they're still in the wrong place. Anyway, thank you very much for coming on the show, Paula. Thanks very much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss, one of the TikTokity and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time. And that should have us out, Paula. Great.